There are luxury brands that used to have year-long waitlists now sitting on shelves with 40% discounts. Designer labels that celebrities fought over in 2019 are now running clearance, sales that get ignored. And the collapse is accelerating so fast that some of these brands might not exist in 5 years. Burberry just reported a 22% drop in sales, and their stock crashed 40% in 6 months. They're closing 38 stores globally. The iconic British brand that dressed royalty for over a century is now discounting trench coats that used to sell out at full price. Something fundamental has broken. Gucci's parent company Kering saw profits drop 42% last quarter. Store traffic is down 30%. The brand that dominated 2017 through 2020 fashion with maximalist designs now can't move inventory even with aggressive markdowns. What was a $10 billion brand is hemorrhaging value. Michael Kors shut down 100 stores in the past 2 years, and their stock is down 65% from its peak. The brand that became synonymous with accessible luxury in the 2010s is now synonymous with outlet malls and discount bins. They're dying in real time. And this isn't temporary. This is a permanent shift in how younger consumers view luxury. The brands that built empires on logo recognition and heritage are discovering that Gen Z and millennials don't care about either. Here are 9 luxury brands collapsing right now and why nothing they do can stop it. 1. Coach Miro. From aspirational to outlet mall prison, Coach bags used to mean something. In the 1990s and early 2000s, carrying a Coach bag signaled you made it to the upper middle class. The leather quality was excellent, the designs were classic, and the brand had cachet. Now their bags sit in outlet malls at 70% off, and nobody's buying even at those prices. What killed Coach? They expanded too aggressively and destroyed their own exclusivity. By the mid-2010s, there were Coach outlet stores in every suburban outlet mall in America. When your luxury brand is next to the Nike clearance store and the Gap outlet, you're not luxury anymore. You're accessible, and accessible means worthless to the people who buy status symbols. The numbers are catastrophic. Coach's revenue has been flat or declining since 2015. Store count dropped from 1,000 locations to under 600. Their parent company Tapestry tried rebranding them as modern luxury with higher prices. The market rejected it completely. Nobody wants to pay $500 for a Coach bag when everyone knows you can get it for $150 at the outlet. But here's what really destroyed them. Social media made brand positioning transparent. When Instagram influencers can document exactly where products are sold and at what discount, the illusion of luxury evaporates. Gen Z knows Coach is outlet mall tier. No amount of marketing changes that reality. 2. Michael Kors, the brand that killed itself through ubiquity. Michael Kors followed the exact same playbook as Coach and got the exact same result. In 2012, a Michael Kors bag was aspirational. Every department store had a Michael Kors section. Every outlet mall had a Michael Kors clearance store. Nobody under 35 wants to be seen carrying one. The brand peaked at $12 billion valuation in 2014. Today, it's worth $4 billion and falling. Revenue dropped 14% last year. Store closures are accelerating. The founder Michael Kors himself admitted in 2023 that the brand lost its way by chasing volume over prestige. Here's the death spiral. To hit growth targets, they expanded distribution massively. More stores, more wholesale partners, more discount channels. This increased short-term revenue but destroyed long-term brand value. When your bags are sold at Macy's, TJ Maxx, and outlet malls simultaneously, customers perceive zero exclusivity, and Gen Z consumers are brutal about this. They don't see Michael Kors as luxury that's accessible. They see it as fake luxury that's trying too hard. The logo-heavy designs that worked in 2010 look dated and desperate now. The brand represents everything younger consumers reject about luxury, trying to buy status through obvious branding rather than actual quality or taste. 3. Burberry British heritage can't save you. Burberry is 167 years old. They invented gabardine fabric. They dressed British military officers in both world wars. They have a royal warrant from King Charles. And none of that matters anymore because their sales just dropped 22% in a single quarter. The iconic Burberry check pattern that used to signal British sophistication now signals trying too hard to show you have money. Their signature trench coats, which used to have waiting lists, now sit on sale racks. Store traffic is down across all markets. The brand is in genuine crisis. What went wrong? Burberry made two fatal mistakes. First, they let their check pattern get counterfeited into oblivion in the 2000s. Fake Burberry flooded markets globally, completely destroying the pattern's prestige. By the time they tried to move away from the check, the damage was permanent. The pattern became associated with counterfeits and tackiness rather than luxury. Second, they failed to evolve their aesthetic for younger consumers. Gen Z doesn't want British heritage and classic designs. They want streetwear influence, bold statements, and brands that feel contemporary. Burberry's attempts to modernize with younger creative directors backfired because their core identity conflicts with what the youth market actually wants. The numbers prove this. Sales in China, their largest growth market, dropped 21% last quarter. Millennials and Gen Z in Asia aren't buying the British heritage story. They want supreme, off-white, or actually inaccessible luxury like Hermes or Bottega Veneta. Burberry is stuck in the middle. Too expensive for practical buyers. Not cool enough for status buyers. 4. Gucci monk symbolism died and took them with it. Gucci absolutely dominated 2017 to 2020 under creative director Alessandro Michele. The maximalist aesthetic, with bold florals, clashing patterns, and eccentric designs became the hottest thing in fashion. Revenue doubled. Store openings accelerated globally. Kering, their parent company, valued them at over $15 billion. Suddenly, completely, and Gucci has been in freefall ever since. Sales dropped 18% last year. They're down another 20% this year. Operating profit collapsed 42%. Store traffic is in decline across all regions. The brand that couldn't produce enough inventory to meet demand in 2019 now has warehouses full of unsold product. They're discounting aggressively, and it's not working. Here's why the collapse is so severe. Gucci's maximalist aesthetic was trend-driven, not timeless. When that trend ended, the brand had nothing to fall back on. Consumers who bought Gucci because it was the hot thing moved on to the next hot thing. The buyers who want lasting luxury never saw Gucci as that category because the products were too trendy. They replaced Alessandro Michele with a new creative director trying a more refined approach. It's not landing. The problem isn't the creative direction, it's that Gucci positioned itself as fashion-forward rather than timeless. You can't pivot from trendy to classic after you've already trained customers to see you as the former. 5. Kate Spade, dead brand walking. Kate Spade committed suicide in 2018. The brand has been dying slowly ever since. Their parent company Tapestry has been trying to revive it through various strategies. They're all failing, and at this point they're essentially managing its decline rather than trying to save it. Sales are down 16% year over year. Store count has been cut from 400 to under 200. The brand has zero relevance with consumers under 30. Shopping Kate Spade outlets is what suburban moms do when they want to feel like they're treating themselves without spending much money. That's not a luxury brand. That's a therapy purchase. The fundamental problem is identity. What is Kate Spade? It's not affordable enough to compete with fast fashion. It's not prestigious enough to compete with actual luxury. It's not cool enough to compete with contemporary brands. It's not practical enough to compete with functional bags. It exists in a dead zone where no consumer segment particularly wants it. Tapestry has tried repositioning it multiple times. Nothing works. The market has decided Kate Spade is irrelevant, and no amount of marketing changes that. They're keeping it alive because they paid $2.4 billion to acquire it, and admitting that was a catastrophic mistake is too painful. But make no mistake, this brand is dead. It just doesn't know it yet. 6. Tory Burch, the logo. Everyone recognizes, nobody wants remember, when Tory Burch ballet flats with the double T logo were everywhere in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Every young professional woman had a pair. The brand represented accessible luxury for the aspirational class. Then everyone got them. And when everyone has something, it's not special anymore. Tory Burch revenue has been stagnant since 2017. They've closed 20% of their stores. The distinctive logo that used to be a status symbol now screams, "I bought this in 2012 and never updated my wardrobe." Younger consumers view the brand as dated and uninteresting. Here's the curse of logo-driven brands. When your entire brand identity is a recognizable logo, you're vulnerable to two things. First, ubiquity kills desirability. When the logo is everywhere, it signals nothing. Second, trends shift away from obvious branding and towards subtle luxury. Your entire identity becomes a liability. Tory Burch tried to move up market with higher-priced lines and more refined designs. The market rejected it because consumers already have a fixed perception. Once you're the ballet flats with the logo brand, you can't become the sophisticated leather goods brand. Your identity is locked in, and that identity is now associated with 2010 style fashion that feels incredibly dated. 7. Versace, selling to Capri Holdings. Was selling its soul. Versace was independently owned by the Versace family for decades. It had identity, heritage, and creative control. In 2018, they sold to Capri Holdings for $2.12 billion. Since then, the brand has been systematically corporatized, diluted, and destroyed in pursuit of mass-market revenue. The numbers since acquisition are grim. Revenue growth has been minimal despite aggressive expansion. Operating margins have compressed. The brand that used to represent bold Italian luxury now represents corporate management trying to extract value from a heritage name. Here's what happens when luxury brands get acquired by conglomerates. The new owners need to justify the acquisition price through revenue growth. They expand distribution, increase production, and make the brand more accessible. This increases short-term revenue but destroys long-term brand equity. Versace is experiencing this in real time. The designs feel more generic. The brand positioning feels corporate. The exclusive feeling that made Versace special is gone, replaced by calculated attempts to maximize market penetration. Consumers can sense this. Luxury buyers don't want mass-market strategies applied to prestige brands. The soul of the brand has been traded for spreadsheet optimization. 8. Jimmy Choo, one product. Category can't sustain a luxury brand. Jimmy Choo is famous for one thing and one thing only: expensive high heels. That was enough in the 2000s when Sex and the City made designer heels aspirational. It's not enough in 2024 when women's footwear preferences have shifted dramatically toward comfort and versatility. The luxury heel market has contracted massively. Women still buy heels for special occasions, but the everyday heel wearing that sustained brands like Jimmy Choo has evaporated. Remote work, casual dress codes, and prioritization of comfort over fashion have destroyed the market for $800 stilettos. Jimmy Choo tried to expand into handbags, men's shoes, and accessories. None of it worked because consumers don't see Jimmy Choo as a lifestyle brand. They see it as the heel brand. When you try to sell a Jimmy Choo handbag, customers ask, "Why would I buy that instead of a real handbag brand?" The brand was sold to Capri Holdings in 2017 for $1.2 billion. Sales have been flat to declining since. The parent company is reportedly exploring selling them again because they can't figure out how to make the brand grow. Nobody wants to buy because everyone can see the market for luxury heels is in permanent decline. 9. Salvatore Ferragamo heritage doesn't pay the bills. Ferragamo is 97 years old. They shod Hollywood royalty in the 1920s. Audrey Hepburn wore their shoes. They have museum-level archives of historic footwear, and their sales just dropped 7.8%, and they closed 70 stores because nobody cares about heritage anymore. This is the brutal lesson all heritage brands are learning. Gen Z and young millennials don't care that your brand dressed Marilyn Monroe. They don't care that you invented a specific shoe construction technique in 1927. They don't care about your archive or your history or your founder's story. They care about whether your products are cool right now. And Ferragamo is not cool right now. The brand has tried everything. New creative directors, collaborations with contemporary artists, price increases to signal luxury, price decreases to increase accessibility. Nothing works because the fundamental problem isn't creative direction or pricing. It's that the target customer for heritage luxury is aging out and dying, and younger consumers don't share their values. Ferragamo's average customer age has been climbing steadily. That's the death statistic for luxury brands. When your customer base gets older every year, you're not attracting youth, you're just riding your existing customers until they stop buying. Why this collapse is permanent? Here's what all these brands have in common. They built their value on logo recognition, heritage, and accessible luxury positioning. These were winning strategies in the 1990s and 2000s. They're losing strategies now and nothing can fix them. Gen Z consumers fundamentally view luxury differently than previous generations. They don't want obvious logos that scream, "I have money." They don't care about brand heritage or founding stories. They don't aspire to accessible luxury because they've seen their parents' generation buy that stuff and it didn't deliver on its promises. What Gen Z actually wants from luxury, either true inaccessibility at Hermes and Bottega Veneta level, or contemporary cool at streetwear and emerging designer level, the middle tier where all these dying brands live, accessible luxury with recognizable logos and heritage stories is completely dead to younger consumers. The discount spiral makes this irreversible. Once a luxury brand starts heavily discounting, they can never go back to full price without clearing out their existing customer base. People who bought your products at 40% off will never pay full price again. You've trained them that your prices are fake. Kate Spade, they're all trapped in this spiral now, permanent discounting to move inventory, which destroys brand perception, which requires more discounting. And here's the final nail. You can see exactly what products actually sell for in secondary markets. When a $2,000 Gucci bag resells for $600, the $2,000 retail price is exposed as arbitrary. Gen Z sees this and concludes the entire luxury industry is a scam. They're not entirely wrong. These 9 brands aren't coming back. Some will be acquired and milked for whatever remaining brand equity exists. Some will slowly fade into outlet mall oblivion. Some might survive as zombie brands that technically still exist but have zero cultural relevance. But none of them are returning to their peak status. The market has moved on, and they can't follow where it went.